Hello, dear children. Today we are going to discuss the eighth chapter of your history. The name of the topic is Devotional Paths to the Divine. You may have seen people perform rituals of worship or singing bhajans, kirtans, or kavalis, or even repeating the name of God in silence, and notice that some of them are moved to tears. So, children, it is mentioned here that you may have seen people they used to perform rituals of worship. Rituals means religious, of worship, or singing bhajans, kirtans, or kavalis, or even repeating the name of God in silence. Bhajan, kirtans, or kavalis. Kavalis means was a style of music of a style of devotional music of Muslim boys. Okay, or even repeating the name of God. Repeating means to say the same thing again and again. They used to enchant mantras, which you children you also you used to do. And notice that some of them are moved to tears. Okay, and you might notice that some of them they are moved to tears. Okay, such intense devotion or love of God is the legacy of various kinds of bhakti and Sufi movements that have evolved since the 18th century. Sorry. So, this type of uh, intense devotion, intense means by a feeling of strong love or loyalty. So, this type of devotion or love of God is the legacy. Legacy means again this intense devotion for love and God, something of various kinds of bhakti and Sufi movements. Sufi means boys who believes in the kind of Islam movements that have evolved since the 18th century. From the 18th century, it has been evolved, boys. The idea of a supreme God, supreme here, let us see the idea of a supernatural God. Before large kingdoms emerged, different groups of people worshipped their own gods and goddesses. So, before you see large kingdoms, it submerged. Okay, different groups of people they worshipped their own gods and goddesses, their own deities they used to worship. As people were brought together through the growth of towns, trade, and empires, new ideas began to develop. So, as uh, people they were brought together through the growth of towns, as towns existed or trade and empires existed, so new ideas it started to develop. The idea that all living things pass through countless cycles of birth and rebirth, performing good deeds, and that came to be widely accepted. So the idea that all living things that pass through their countless cycles of birth and then a rebirth which are performing good works or deeds, and that came to be widely accepted by the people. Similarly, the idea that all human beings are not equal, even at birth, gain ground during this period in the same manner, boys, that all human beings are not equal, even at birth, gain ground during this period at the time. Okay, the belief that social privileges came from birth in a noble family or a high caste was the subject of many learned texts. So, the belief, thinking of the people that social privileges, okay, social privileges means a special right here came from birth in a noble. Noble means here it is belonging by a rank, okay, having knowledge, family, or a high caste was the subject of many learned texts, many see knowledgeful texts. Many people were uneasy with such ideas and turned to the teachings of Buddha or Jainas, according to which it was possible to overcome social differences and break the cycle of rebirth through personal effort. So many people were uneasy with such thinking or ideas and they turned to the teachings of the Buddha and or the Jainas, according to which it was possible in order to overcome social differences and break the cycle of rebirth through personal effort. Effort means determined attempt. Okay. Others felt attracted to the idea of a supreme God who could deliver humans from such bondage if approached with devotion. So others they felt what? They felt attracted with the idea of a supreme God, that is the supernatural God who could deliver humans from such bondage if approached, if they come near with devotion. Okay, with if they come near love and loyalty, which is known as bhakti. This idea advocated in the Bhagavad Gita grew in popularity in the early centuries of the Common Era. Sorry. So this idea was it publicity recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita it is the holiest book of Hindus, which grew in popularity in the early centuries of the Common Era. Shiva, Vishnu, and Durga as supreme deities came to be worshipped through elaborate rituals. So, as this chapter is based on religions was here you see we find Shiva, Vishnu, and Durga. Okay, they are the supernatural deities. Deities means gods or goddesses who came to be worshipped to through elaborate rituals. Elaborate means having many carefully arranged details, and rituals means boys a religious ceremony. At the same time, gods and goddesses worshipped in different areas came to be identified with Shiva, Vishnu, or Durga. So, meanwhile, what happened? Gods and goddesses worshipped in different areas came to be identified with Shiva, Vishnu, or Durga. Okay, some devotees who have faith or used to devote to Shiva, some are with Vishnu, and some with Durga. In the process, local myths and legends became a part of the Puranic stories and methods of worship recommended in the Puranas were introduced into the local cults. So, in that process, in that manner, boys, local myths means here a traditional story, boys. Myths and legends are same, okay? And legends became a part of the Puranic stories. These are the part of ancient stories. Puranic means ancient stories, okay? And methods of worship recommended means advised or suggested as good or suitable in the Puranas were introduced into the local cults. Local cults means it's a system of religious devotion. Eventually, the Puranas also laid down that it was possible for devotees to receive the grace of God regardless of their caste status. So, in the end, boys, the Puranas also laid down that it was possible, okay, for devotees, those who believe to different god and goddesses, uh, to them to receive the grace of God, the blessing of God, regardless, okay, of their caste status, regardless means despite the prevailing circumstances, caste prevailing of their caste status. The idea of bhakti became so popular that even Buddhists and Jainas adopted these beliefs. So, see, the practicing of this bhakti or the idea of bhakti, it became so popular among the people, in which even Buddhists, okay, those who belongs to Buddhism and Jainism, Jainas, they adopted these beliefs. They also began to what? Legally take, or they also started to trust, okay, to gods and goddesses. A new kind of bhakti in South India, Nayanars and Alvars. Now let us see a new kind of bhakti which was existed in our South India, okay, which are known as Nayanars and Alvars. Nayanars, they are the saints of Tamil Nadu, boys, and Alvars, those immersed in God, okay, in Tamil Nadu. The 7th to 9th centuries show the emergence of new religious movements led by the Nayanars. Okay, Nayanars, they are the saints devoted to Shiva. And Alvars means they are the saints devoted to Vishnu, who came from all castes, including those considered untouchable like the Pulayar and Panars. And the Panars, okay. The 17th to 19th centuries, boys. Sorry. So the emergence means becoming visible here. Okay, emergence of new religious movements. It was observed that a new religious movement started there, was led by these Nayanas. Nayanas means they are the devotee of Lord Shiva. They are saints devoted to Shiva, and Albers they are the saints or devotee of Vishnu. They came from all castes. Okay, uh, from all different castes they existed. They came, okay, including those considered untouchables. Untouchable means was not allowed to be touched. In our Hindu society, we have yet this, okay. Also, they are like the Pulayar and Panars. Panars, okay. They are treated as untouchable. So this group of people also they have joined with that Nayanars and Alvars. They were sharply critical of the Buddhist and Jainas and priests' ardent love of Shiva or Vishnu as the path of salvation. So those people they were very clearly critical of the Buddhist and the Jainas, and they delivered a sermon, okay, ardent love of Shiva and Vishnu as the path of salvation, as the path of preservation from harm, ruin, or loss. Okay. They drew upon the ideals of love and heroism as found in the Sangam literature, the earliest example of Tamil literature, composed during the early centuries of the Common Era, and blended them with the values of bhakti. So they drew here, okay, those Nayanars and Alvars drew upon the ideals of love and heroism as found in Sangam literature. Sangam literature it was the earliest example of Tamil literature. Okay, it was composed during the early centuries of the Common Era and blended. Blended means mixed them with the values of bhakti. The Nayanars and Albers went from place to place composing exquisite poems in praise of the deities enshrined in the villages they visited and set them to music. So the Nayanars and Alvars of Tamil Nadu, they went from one place to another in which they used to compose. Okay, here they used to write or create exquisite means was uh, extremely beautiful. Okay, they uh, made poems, they wrote poems, create poems in praise of the deities in enshrined enshrined place in an appreciate receptacle. Okay, in the villages they visited and set them to music. So they went in different places and they have done such thing. Okay, in order to praise God or goddesses. So boys, here you can see these Nayanars and Alvars. About them, it has written, okay, at the top of page number 106. You just get through. So between the 10th and 12th centuries, the Chola and Pandya kings built elaborate temples around many of the shrines visited by the saint poets, strengthening the links between the bhakti tradition and temple worship. So, in between 10th and 12th centuries, the Chola and the Pandya kings, Chola dynasty, Pandya dynasties are their boys. So, between see 10th and 12th centuries, this Chola and the Pandya kings, they built elaborate. Elaborate means by carefully arranged parts. Okay, they made temples around many of the shrines. Shrines means holy places which are visited by saint poets. Strengthening means becoming stronger here. The links between the bhakti tradition and temple worship. This was also the time when their poems were compiled. So it was the time when their poems were produced, a list of book, okay, by assembling information, okay, collected from other sources, that is called compiled. Besides biographies or religious biographies of the Alvars, the Nayanars were also composed. So apart from biographies, yeah, biographies means an account of some, okay, someone's life written by someone else, that is called biography. Okay, an account of someone's life written by someone else, that is called biography, or religious biographies, or biographies which are related to religions of the Alvars and Nayanas were also composed. It was also compiled here. Okay. Today we use these texts as sources for writing histories of the Bhakti tradition. So at present as voice we use these texts as sources for writing histories of Bhakti tradition. Sorry. Boys, have a look again. You just get through this one, the devotee and the Lord. Okay. Now, philosophy and bhakti. Shankara, one of the most influential philosopher of India. Shankara, he was one of the most influential. Okay, was having great influence in philosophy. Philosophy means you learn philosophy. Okay, that is called philosopher of India. Was born in Kerala in the 8th century. So Shankara, he was born in the 18th century in Kerala. He was an advocate of Advaita, or the doctrine of the oneness of the individual soul and the supreme God, which is the ultimate reality. So Shankara, you see, he was an advocate of Advaita. Advaita means a Vedantic doctrine, boy, that identifies the individual self, that is Atma, with ground of reality, that is Brahmana. Okay, or the doctrine of the oneness. Doctrine means the belief of the oneness of the individual soul and the supreme God, which is ultimate reality, which is finally, okay, reality, final reality. He taught that Brahman, the only or ultimate reality, was formless and without any attributes. So here Shankara taught that Brahman, the only or ultimate reality, was formless, okay, without formless means without a clear or definite structure and without any attributes. Okay, attributes means regarded something as being caused by. He considered the world around us to be an illusion or maya and preached renunciation of the world and adoption of the path of knowledge to understand the true nature of Brahman and attain salvation. So here what happened? Shankara considered the world around us to be an illusion. Illusion means an instance of a wrong or instead perception, yeah, okay, of a sensory experience or maya and preached a renunciation. Renunciation means rejections of something of the world and adoption. Okay, uh, the fact of adopted of the path of knowledge to understand the true nature of Brahman and attain salvation. Salvation means preservation from harm, ruin or loss. Okay. Ramanuja, born in Tamil Nadu in the 11th century, was deeply influenced by the Alvars. So Ramanuja, you see, he was born in Tamil Nadu in the 11th century. He was deeply influenced by the Alvars. Okay. According to him, the best means of attaining salvation was through intense devotion to Vishnu. So, according to Ramanuja, here the best way of attaining salvation was through intense devotion. Okay, uh, it was through intense devotion, extreme. Okay, the belief of that devotion to Vishnu. Vishnu, in his grace, helps the devotee to attain the bliss of union with him. So, Vishnu, in his grace, in his blessing, he helps the devotee to attain the bliss of union with him. This means a great joy of union with him. He propounded the doctrine of Vishishta Vaita or qualified oneness in that the soul, even when united with the Supreme God, remain distinct. Sorry. So he propounded here. He propounded put forwarded here the doctrine that the belief of Vishishta Vaita or qualified oneness. Oneness means qualified to unified in that the soul, even when united with the Supreme God, Supreme is highest in rank, that God, it remained distinct, it remained different in nature. Ramanuja's doctrine greatly inspired the new strand of bhakti which developed in India subsequently. So Ramanuja's doctrine, it was greatly inspired, boys. It was extremely ordinary quality it was having, and then in which the new strand of bhakti developed in North India afterwards. Then Vasavana's vira. We noted earlier the connection between the Tamil Bhakti movement and temple worship. So, boys, we noted in the above part of the chapter about the connection between the Tamil Bhakti movement and temple worship. This is turned to lead to a this in turn led to a reaction that is best represented in the Vira Shiva movement initiated by Basavana and his companions like Allama Prabhu and Akammaha Devi. So here this in turn led to the reaction that is best represented in the Virashaiva movement. Okay, it was a movement began in Karnataka in the mid 12th century. Okay, it strongly argued the equality of all human beings was then initiated by Vasavana and his companions like Allama Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi. This movement began in Karnataka in the mid 12th century, okay, which I have already cleared you. The Virasaivas argued strongly for the equality of all human beings and against Brahmanical ideas about caste and the treatment of women. See, the Virasaivas, they argued, okay, strongly for the equality of all human beings, and they were against Brahmanical ideas. Okay, the philosophy or the ideas of Brahmin, they deny it. Okay, they believe in equality, and then in the Brahmin society, the ideas about caste and the treatment of women, they were against of this. Okay, they were also against all forms of ritual and idol worship. Apart from that, they were also against all types of religious ceremony, and idol means the image which is representation of God worship. They were against of that. They disagree this. Okay, they do not believe on such type of worship. Okay, to worship an image, they were against of rituals. Okay, so let's up to here for today. Thank you all.